This is Mr. Rob Ronan here again, and in this video we're going to be talking about cameo defense and which cameos will provide you with the best defense, and we're even going to make a tier list. So the way we're going to judge these cameos is based on various assets of defense, whether it's their ability to keep your armored wake up safe, or provide their own invincible reversal, or how they can make you fare a little bit better in the weird poke meta of the game. So we'll start off with Sub-Zero, and we'll go a little bit slower with him and then move faster with the other cameos. Because Sub-Zero is quite known to be, quite a defensive cameo. He's got a lot of ways that he can be counted as defensive. First and foremost, can he keep your armor safe? And the answer to that is yes, he can. If you go for your armor, apply Sub-Zero's ice armor, you can then cancel it into an ambush version of his cold shoulder, and that can keep practically every armor attack in the game safe. I'm using Havoc as an example here, because he's a very simple armor attack. It doesn't travel very far forwards, it doesn't have multiple hits, so it's a very neutral, if not slightly bad armor attack. And as you can see, if he goes for this, it's very easy for Sub-Zero to interrupt the opponent trying to go for a punish on the armor. Certain characters will be able to kind of interrupt this, like if I do a slow, long-reaching button, I can stop Sub-Zero, but I'm not going to be getting a punish on the armor in that case. So overall, he can keep your armor pretty safe. And the next question is, does he provide his own invincible move? And the answer is yes. The cold shoulder is actually probably one of the best cameo reversals in the game. It has a pretty reasonably long period of invincibility, so if the opponent is going for pressure on knockdown that would normally be very meaty and hit exactly when you wake up, this will easily interrupt that. And a little bonus is that it's actually probably on the safer side of these. As you can see, it's -20 to -21. The opponent is slightly far away. There's almost no way that they're going to get a punish on this. So you get a somewhat safe wake up that works really well against calculated wake ups. Calculated Oki, where the Oki hits exactly when you wake up. But the thing that makes this a little bit not so good, and you'll see this a lot with a lot of cameo wake-ups, is if they go for Oki that is not proper and it doesn't hit you exactly as you wake up, it's not very meaty, as they say, it's just simply going to get instantly blown up. Because this knockdown is only plus 10 or so, and I go for this like 18 frame mid, it's very not meaty, and as you can see, if I hit really late on in this move, the invincibility runs out and I easily blast through this. And this will happen a lot if you're doing it at the wrong time. So I only suggest going for this if you think it's a knockdown that the opponent knows how to get Oki from. Because if they know how to get Oki from it effectively, then you'll armor through the meaty Oki. But if it's a random knockdown from something a little bit weird, like a down 2 or just random conversion or not a regular combo, this probably is not a good thing to go for, because they're going to be able to just blast through you pretty easily and get a full combo accidentally without even really considering your armor or invincibility. The cold shoulder is also a cameo reversal that works on block as an invincible reversal, which is also quite rare. And it's also, for the same reasons, one of the best ones. It has the exact same properties as it does on wake up. It's like a -20, has a decent amount of pushback, so it's relatively safe. But the only times you want to use this is when the opponent is cancelling into something. So if they're cancelling into their like full string, dialing the whole thing in, and you know there's a gap, that's the only time you want to use this. It is not useful at all if you think the opponent is going to go for some stagger pressure, some like weird mix-up pressure, because if they go for any of those that's not just dialing in a string, it gets blown up so easily. Even just something simple like Havoc doing some buttons into just a whole nother string easily gets beat up. And if they go for down ones or anything, that's just like super consistently gonna beat this. It's just like, can get beat by anything. So you want to be careful about how you use this, because it really is inconsistent. If the opponent goes for any kind of pressure that is not just finishing a string or cancelling into a special move that you know you can armor through, it's not going to work. So if you know they're going to do something like Havoc finishing his strings or going into this like chip special move or going into the throw, it'll work then. But just be really careful, because you'll get blown up super easily by practically anything else. And finally, does he help with the weird poke meta of this game? And the answer is absolutely. And once again, he's probably the best cameo in the game at it. Because in the game, you know, down ones are punishable by other down ones. So going for poking out of the opponent's pressure can be risky, because if they think you're going to do it, they can just be like, okay, poke me, and then they get their down one, and then they're plus 12 or something, and then they get to go for mix on you. It can be pretty bad. But if you have Sub-Zero, you can go for pokes relatively safely, because you can cancel the poke, or literally anything to be honest, into this parry, and get a full combo, depending on the character. Different damage, of course. But you can get pretty good stuff off of this. %32% off of the opponent trying to go for a down one is nothing to scoff at. And it's really, really good. Anytime you're cancelling into a string that the opponent likes to poke after or thinks they can take their turn back after. Like for example, maybe you're staggering this back 2-2 a lot and then backdashing back 2-2 a lot. You can just go back 2-2-2 and go into this. And then you have an alternate version of a stagger where you catch them trying to press any buttons back. It catches throws, it catches buttons, everything except for projectiles. And it is also modular, so if you do mess up and you realize, oh, that was not the right time to do this, you're not stuck in the full parry animation, you don't just stand there frozen. If you do realize something's wrong, you can just cancel out of it and then block again. So you don't leave yourself unsafe, just make sure you're paying attention to what's going on. If you're like, oh, that was wrong, let me just press back Kameo and then block again and keep myself safe. Or if you're feeling pretty aggressive, you can be like, oh, that wasn't exactly the right thing to do, let me just toss myself at the opponent. And then you get this knockdown that's also plus on block, and it's very good, and that's the aggressive option. So a really, really powerful move in terms of the poke meta of this game. Very, very strong, and not only is it good against pokes, it can also be used as a wake-up that kind of covers the weaknesses of his regular wake-up. Because as we mentioned, if you're going for really bad Oki against a regular Kameo wake-up, as you can see there, if I mistime my Oki, I easily blast through the Kameo wake-up. But if he's going for the ice armor or arctic armor, this is what will cover bad Oki. So now he has an option for any type of knockdown that the opponent is going for. If you think they're not going to be going for really proper Oki, then you can just go for ice armor. So if they get a weird conversion where projectile knocks them down, or they go for like a sweep or down two, and you don't think they properly know how to go for the Oki, then you can go for this, and that covers anything they do, whether they dash up and grab, go for a slow mid, go for a slow overhead, because it just has this like long time where it will still be working, you can just throw that out and it'll catch all of those options. Or if you think the opponent is going for a knockdown that they know exactly how to get their very meaty option afterwards, that's when you can use the cold shoulder to blast through that. Because if it is a very meaty option, the parry will not work. Because it does have 8 frames to start up. So if I do get this very meaty back 2 successfully, I will be able to blast through before Sub-Zero is able to apply the parry. So overall, Sub-Zero has basically everything you could want in terms of defense. And I didn't even mention the fact that he can apply the ice armor, which is a classic strength to let you just zone your heart out and there's nothing the opponent can do about it. So ultimately, he is probably the best defensive Kameo in the game. He can keep your armor safe thanks to the cold shoulder ambush after the ice armor. You can use the cold shoulder at the end of strings if you think they're gonna cancel into like the end of the string or into a special move. He can use it as a wake up if you think they're going for really tight Oki, or if all else fails, he can go for this parry, from which is very strong against pokes, is very strong against a lot of knockdowns, especially if the opponent doesn't have a meaty way of following up, and even if it goes wrong, you can cancel out of it or toss yourself at the opponent. So he has everything you could want. And therefore, it goes without saying that Kameo Sub-Zero is, of course, going to go into the S tier and the top of the S tier. Now that we've gone through Sub-Zero quite slowly and explained the rationale for every choice, we can go a little bit quicker with the other Kameos. So Stryker has the grenades and also has a Kameo wake up, which means he can keep your armor safe. It's really, really hard to punish any wake up in the game, and keep in mind this is a single hitting wake up. If you use someone like Rain that has like a multi-2 hitting wake up, or even like Omni-Man who moves really far forwards from his wake up, there's just no way that you can punish armor when Stryker is coming in and throwing his grenades. So very, very simple, very, very strong. Just anytime you go for an armor attack, whether it's from blocking or from wake up, you can just throw out these grenades and practically keep them safe. And depending on the character, sorry, you can maybe combo off of these grenades since they now give a really good launch. Like that, they bounce the opponent and a lot of wake ups are going to be able to easily convert off of this. Or, you know, even in Havoc's sake, where you don't get a combo, if you do it a little bit delayed, you can use it as a way of getting Oki. And the same goes for like Noob Saibot. And does he have an invincible Kameo reversal? Well, yes he does, but unfortunately it's one of the slightly poorer ones. The low is probably not the one you want to do. You probably want to do the Cop Bop because it is slightly faster at 22 frames instead of 27. But regardless, it's very, very easy to stuff. Similar to Sub-Zero, if the opponent's Oki isn't perfect, then they're going to blast through this pretty easily. But if they do have like a very, very meaty attack that hits exactly as you wake up, you may be able to blast through it, like in that situation there. But even if they slightly delay their Oki, like if I do the back to you slightly later, I'm easily going to blast through both of them and it's going to do nothing for him. Also, it cannot be done as a reversal, so if they are blocking, unlike Sub-Zero, oops, that is the wrong move. Unlike Sub-Zero, Cold Shoulder can be done on Wake Up or on Block Reversal. This is not invincible at all on Block Reversal, so don't do it. So ultimately, Stryker is pretty damn strong on defense, mainly due to his grenades. You can make any armored attack completely safe, or a lot of them can even lead to combos depending on the character. He can also have an invincible Kameo wake up, but you don't really want to be using that most of the time, especially when you have the option of spending half a bar for grenades instead. So for those lovely, lovely mid grenades, Stryker is actually also going to be going into S tier, because half a Kameo gauge for a guaranteed safe wake up or safe armor that can for a lot of characters also lead to a combo is automatic S tier. Next up we have Sonya Kameo, who doesn't provide much in terms of defense. The only thing she really gives you is a Kameo wake up, which unfortunately is also pretty poor. It's a slow 25 frames. So it's very, very easy to blast through. Even, you know, the slightest poorly timed Oki that doesn't hit on the first frame of Wake Up is going to be hit through by this. It doesn't have many invincibility frames, and it's slow, so it's going to be beat by just about everything. Just like Sub-Zero though, it is actually an invincible reversal on block. So if you know the opponent is going to be finishing a string with a gap in it, or cancelling into something that'll have a gap, then it may work. But as you can see, unlike Sub-Zero, this one is actually so slow that some special moves you cancel into will actually still like blast through it. But a lot of things like cancelling into, you know, any of Havoc's mix-ups will both get hit by this. So if you think the opponent is gonna finish something with a gap, then maybe you can use it. But keep in mind that just like Sub-Zero, this can also be really easy blown up by staggers, so don't rely on it too much. So tier list wise, because she can provide you defense on wake up and block, I think I'm gonna put her into A, or B, but probably yeah, high B. Because she can give you some defense on block, but you have to be very specific and you do have to make reads, whereas other cameos you can just do it for fun. Now, Shujinko is pretty poor when it comes to wake-up options, because neither of his Kameo summons are invincible wake-up options at all. The only thing that he can do is if you do have full Kameo gauge, you can use the moves that you steal from the opponent to possibly be wake-ups. But it can't be the down-back move that, you know, starts combos. That will not be an invincible wake-up. Only the down forward Kameo will work as a wake up. And just like a lot of other Kameo wake ups, this can very easily be interrupted, but hey, at least it's something and he doesn't have completely nothing. But yeah, not very great, because he can't even do it all the time. He needs to be charged up, and he needs to hopefully rely that the opponent doesn't have too slow of a down forward copy move. And even when he does it, it still has the same weaknesses as other Kameo wake ups. And this one cannot even be used on block, so it's only for wake-ups, and yeah. Oh, and just a quick note for Shujinko, just to give him a little bit of bonus points because he needs anything. He does have a 20 frame mid, which means that if the opponent isn't super on the ball with punishing down ones, then this may be able to interrupt them trying to punish you, or take their turn back at least. Because I think you have to be around 18 frames in order to actually interrupt the opponent's down one. This is 20 frames, so when you have a bot trying to punish you, it can do it consistently if it is choosing to, which I do not have it doing apparently. As you can see, that can be interrupted, but if they are not super on the ball, no human can like consistently, or no average player can consistently get through this, so it is a relatively safe thing you can do off of your down ones, but you have to be very, very fast to interrupt, and it goes into a safe overhead. So there is something for Shujinko. I think it's safe to say that Shujinko doesn't really provide anything in terms of defense, so we're going to put him in an easy D. As for Sektor, he does have a Kameo Wake Up with the Flamethrower, which is reasonably good because it is very, very safe. It can be armored through the second hit, but you can actually cancel that, so there's some interesting mix to be had there. Because on Wake Up, it'll either be +3 if you do the full thing, or if you think they're going to armor through it, then you can just do back Kameo and it becomes -3, and then you punish their armor. So either way, it's a very, very safe Wake Up, which is quite strong. But just like most Kameo's Wake Ups we've seen, very, very easy to stuff. Unless you have a very, very meaty Wake Up opponent doing something very, very meaty, then you could possibly invulnerable yourself through that. But this cannot be used as a block reversal, it is strictly for Wake Up reversals. Now, when it comes to keeping armor safe, Sektor is a little bit interesting, because he does have a very, very slow ambush rocket that, you know, is not as quick as Stryker grenades or any other ambush. Cyrax, you know, heli, stuff like that, hits a lot faster, so they have higher potential of beating armor. Sektor, unfortunately, it's hard to say, because it can work or it can not work. The opponent does, if they know it's coming, it's pretty easy to go through it. So if I do like this back 2-2 string, I'll hit Sektor and Havoc, and it'll stop the rocket from coming down, and I just get a full combo, straight, normal. I hit them both, get even a little bit more damage. But if I do my my punish a little bit like poorly decided, like if I do a string that doesn't hit Sektor fast enough, like even if I do hit him, as I can see, the rocket may still come down if I hit him too late. So I hit him in that one, but I still got interrupted by the rocket. So there is a chance that you may be able to use the rocket to keep yourself safe, but I wouldn't hedge your bets on it too much, because it may just not work. But hey, if you need it, you may be able to get it. And it does really depend on the character you're using. So if you have someone that has like multi-hitting or moves really far forwards with their Wake Up, there's a chance that that may work a little bit better. Because say, even like in Havoc's case, if you're a little bit further away and there's a lot more pushback in the situation, it may be harder for me to get the same thing like happening, because I have to move further, it takes me a little bit more time, and I get a slower punish. There's a higher chance then that you may be able to get the rocket out in time and keep your armor safe. So it's a much of a muchness. It could be really good or it could not work at all, but the fact that it's there is something. And if you do the double rocket, there is also a higher chance that you may be even able to convert off of this. Because you get stunned for a very, very long time, and some characters will be able to do a Wake Up special move and combo off of this. And when it comes to the poke game with Sektor, the Flamethrower is 21 frames, which is close to being able to, you know, go off of down ones. But unfortunately, if the opponent is on the ball, they will be able to interrupt and still punish your down one. But if you have a little bit of a spaced out down 4 or down 3, depending on, you know, the character you use and how far those reach, that is a reasonably good thing to cancel into them, because if the opponent does try to take their turn back afterwards, like, you know, after people block a Havoc down 4, they like to take their turn back with like a long reaching mid or something. But if you cancel this into Flamethrower, you interrupt them trying to do that, and on hit or block, once again it's good, +3 on hit or very plus on block. It's a good thing to cancel as long as you're not right in their face, because they can still technically punish a down run. So yeah, Sektor is interesting. He has the base Kameo kind of Wake Up that's okay, but not very good. But even when he does that, it is very, very good frame data wise. And he has the potential of using his rocket as a Wake Up, which is also like a 50-50 as to whether it'll work. So I'm going to put him in a solid A tier for Kameo defense. He can keep things pretty safe, and especially if you're using the rocket with a character that pushes you far forwards on their Wake Up, or anything like that, he could potentially be really, really good. Now, Scorpion's an interesting one because he doesn't have a way of keeping your armor safe. He doesn't have an invincible Kameo reversal, but he does have this interesting get over here tool, which is pretty unique because it's not an attack, it's not going to hit the opponent or interrupt what they're doing, but it is very, very effective when it comes to just getting you out of a situation. So its armor starts up instantly, so no matter what I do, no matter how early I hit them, unlike Sub-Zero's parry, I'm not going to be able to interrupt this, which is really, really strong. And as you can see, it has multiple hits of armor. So, you know, unlike Havoc and Ashra, most characters' armor attacks only have one hit of armor. And there's a reasonable amount of characters in this game that have armor-breaking moves, like Rain Standing 2, or Sektor's Back 3-4. Things that hit 2 times very close to each other can break through armor, but that's not going to work versus Scorpion. Even just like this simple string of Havocs, as you can see, if I time it correctly, I can hit the opponent twice and they're still armoring through it. So if you're mid-screen or anywhere that isn't the corner, this is probably one of the best and most consistent reversals in the game. Because of course you can also do this on block, so if there's ever a gap or anything, you can kind of just mash back Kameo, and if you just want to get out of there, this will get you out of there. And there's not much a character can do to get through this, even if they know that it's coming. Like, even if I know that he's gonna armor through this on his wake up, like, what am I gonna do other than maybe use the time to set up a, projectile or something? Unless I have something very specific like this and I make a big read on an unsafe special move going through the armor like that, it's very, very good. Even if they chase you down, you're still plus enough that you're not, gonna get punished or anything. It's really, really strong. And just, yeah, having that, unlimited armor is really, really strong. But then, like I alluded to, if you are in the corner, then this becomes pretty damn bad. Because even if you do armor through things, you can have the armor, but you're not going to have any kind of advantage. Unless they go for something very unsafe. So even if you do get out of it, you may get punished, or you're just not going to have any advantage at all, so there wasn't really much point in doing it. So yeah. Doesn't offer too much in terms of defense, but as long as you're not in the corner, he does have something that will just, no matter what, get you out of a situation. And I think that is pretty damn strong, because it stops the mind games of having armor breaks or having Kameo wake-ups, getting hit by meaty stuff versus non-meaty stuff. Oh yeah, and also, since it can be done off of anything and it's just a summon, this can also help him with the poke game. If you just want to poke out of the opponent's offense, they're doing a bunch of staggers and stuff, and you're like, let me just poke and not get punished for doing a poke. You can do a poke into this and just suck yourself away if you really, really are scared of the opponent's offense. Maybe it's a Johnny Cage or something, and you throw out a poke, and, you know, when you throw out a poke against him and he knows it's coming, and he punishes you for doing the poke, and then he gets to go for his pressure again, and it's still a scary situation. So if you need to get out of there, this is also a good asset to your poking game. So it may be questionable, but I think I will actually put Scorpion in A tier, or at least low A tier. Because no matter what, you have some defense as long as you're not in the corner, and you can get out of scary stuff, no matter how offensive your opponent's pressure is. Right, now Sareena's not going to be keeping any of your armor safe, but she does have a Kameo Wake Up, which is reasonably fast at 20 frames, and has okay invincibility, but once again, just like most Kameo Wake Ups, very, very easy to stuff as long as you're not having a completely meaty Wake Up attack like that back to there. So yeah, pretty easy to stuff, so don't be too reliant on it, but it can also be done on block. Which, once again, like always, if the opponent is cancelling into something, there's a gap at their end of the string, or they cancel into some special move that has a gap, this will probably be able to blast through it, so there is potential to use this against block strings, but just do be cautious. When it comes to the down 1 game, there is potential for this to be useful. It is 20 frames, so the opponent has to be very, very fast to punish a down 1 if you cancel into this, but if they are really quick and they are a bot, as you can see, they will still be able to interrupt it. So maybe you can use it after some slightly longer reaching pokes, or if you have slightly better frames, this may be a little bit more consistent, but it's not too bad. It's a mid, and it's completely safe, so you can kind of, as long as your opponent isn't super quick and hits her out of it, you can use it as a good way to make your poke stronger. Right, and yeah, because she has mid that's decently fast, it can be done on block or as a wake up, I think she goes in a decent B. She's got a Kameo reversal, she can use it in a lot of situations, but it has the same weakness as a regular Kameo reversal. And as for the poking game, like it can be used, but once again, very inconsistent, but it's there. Okay, and thanks to Motaro's new buffs with the teleport, he's now going to be able to keep your armor and practically anything safe, thanks to the tele being able to go full screen now. Now, any armor attack, even simple ones like Havoc's, are practically unpunishable. Even like long-reaching moves like Havoc's roll are not going to be able to punish this. It's practically unpunishable, which is pretty damn strong, because now in any block string or any wake-up situation, you can just throw out an armor, and as long as you don't get armor broken, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a safe wake-up option and just not worry about the opponent's offense, which is very, very strong, and it only costs half a Kameo gauge, so that is really, really powerful. Just like all of the other Kameo ambush options that keep your armor safe, if they can keep your armor safe, they can keep other things safe. So anytime you go for mix-ups, like overheads or lows or throws, you can be like, oh, that didn't work, let me just teleport out of here. Oh, that didn't work, let me just teleport out of here. Completely safe, very, very easy to use, half a Kameo gauge. Very, very strong, good for defense as well as offense, of course, if it's for mix. He does also provide a Kameo wake up with the tail shot. Once again, not amazing invincibility, so very, very easy to blast through unless they go for a very, very meaty wake up, meaty attack on your wake up. So not great, but it's something. Also, frame data wise, it is relatively safe. It's not the plus 14 it usually is, but minus 8 is very, very safe for an invincible wake up. And no, it cannot be used in block strings, it's only for wake up. But yeah, the fact that it can keep armor completely safe and anything completely safe just by doing a teleport into full screen, I think makes it obvious that he's going to be an S tier. Maybe a low S tier, because unlike some Kameos coming up, like Stryker and some other ones, he's not going to be able to get a conversion off of any of the safetiness off of armor, but being able to do it consistently, completely safe, no gap, is really, really strong. And he also has that Kameo wake up if you feel like it. And also, I didn't mention it, but having the reflect makes you be a little bit more defensive against zoning. So yeah, overall, very, very good defense from Motaro. Now, Mavado is pretty widely known as a top-tier Kameo because he gives you really high damaging combos very consistently, and he also gives you pretty good defense, and that is thanks to his Mind Toss. So it's a bit of a slow ambush, but it has properties that makes it very strong. So unlike some other placement ambushes that will disappear if the Kameo gets hit, even if Mavado gets hit, like he does there, the mine still gets planted and it still goes off. So even though it's slow and your character still gets punished, there is a very high chance that even if they do get the punish, they're not going to be able to complete the punish or get a combo. And in a lot of situations, you may even be able to get your own combo afterwards because the stun from the mine is so damn long. So it's a pretty disrespectful and a pretty cheesy way of making any of your armor attacks completely safe. So whether you're in a block string or on wake up that's scary, you can just go for armor into this, and it's really good. And as you can see there, what's good about it is whether it works, whether they get hit or they don't get hit doesn't really matter, because either they'll wake up into it, some characters will be able to combo into it depending on their armor move. As you can see, Havoc's here, even if the opponent gets hit, then they either have to block it on wake up or they may get hit by it, like the bot is here, and then you get a full combo. So a really, really strong move, and yeah, the fact that even if they do get the punish, it's very hard to not get hit by it. You have to do some very specific stuff, like using a long reaching button that brings you far forwards, like maybe if I do something like this, and then roll out of the way, I can get a very weird punish, but even then, you're nerfing the opponent's ability to get a proper punish. And yeah, it costs a whole Kameo gauge for a reason, but it's a very consistent way of keeping yourself safe. And yeah, like I mentioned, not only does it keep you safe, it can also let you get a full combo yourself. So really, really, really strong. And he also has the added ability, he has this like auto extender thing where, you know, you can just mash the direction and after anything, he can instantly teleport in for a combo. And a lot of characters, unlike Havoc unfortunately, have armor attacks that will blast the opponent away or launch them into the air in some way. So pretend this back 4 is my armor attack, I can just be mashing forward Kameo after that and be like, oh, I can get a combo from this now. And, you know, get something a little bit more optimal if you want. But the fact that you can be mashing forward Kameo, but if the opponent blocks, which my opponent is not doing, I can be mashing forward Kameo and then be like, oh, quickly realize that they blocked it, and then just press regular Kameo, and then he's going to place the mine on the floor, and as we saw, even if you place it really late and you hit Mavado, he's still going to place the mine on the floor, and you're still probably going to interrupt their punish. So you can kind of do this cheesy game where you either get an easy combo from your wake up, or if they're blocked, you can be like, oh, let me place the mine there quickly, and you're just mashing a bunch of Kameo buttons, and it always works out well for you. So it's a really, really strong wake-up game for Mavado. He does have his own Kameo wake-up, but like, to be honest, when you have the strength of the other one, it's really not that useful. It's this Nomad's Touch, but it's really not that good. Like, not only is it, you know, have the bad invincibility of other Kameo wake-up moves, because it comes from behind, and if you move even slightly forwards, he's just not going to even try to touch you. So even in a lot of situations where, even if the opponent does have a really meaty thing that would get armored through, he's just not going to reach, and it's not going to be useful. So yeah, don't use that. So Mavado, thanks to his ability to not only keep armor safe, interrupt punishes, and then also give you your own combo from the opponent trying to punish you, you also get the option select of going for a regular combo by mashing forwards and then going regular Kameo. He does basically everything you could want to keep you safe. The only downside is that it is a little expensive. It does cost a whole Kameo gauge, but regardless, that is extremely strong and puts you on par with other Kameos that have great defense and can even get you combos from your armor defense. Alright, now Kameo Kung Lao doesn't really provide much in terms of defense. He does have a Kameo wake up, but it's pretty average, if not below average. Its frame data is nothing interesting, -20 with no pushback. It's easy for anyone to punish. It can be done on block as well, which means, you know, just like all the others, if you are going into, if your opponent is doing a string that you know there's a gap in, then perhaps you can armor through that as an option, but it's very, very risky compared to some of the other Kameo ones that have slightly better frame data or pushback. And he does have a teleport, but it is nothing like Mavado's. It's a lot slower, he can't choose the distance that he goes, it can be interrupted in so many ways. It's just easy for the opponent to interrupt either like intentionally or accidentally. You can get down 2'd, and that's if you're lucky. Like, if they predict it, they can jump in and get like a full like optimal damaging combo on you. Not that this is optimal, but depending on the character, you can get really high damage from aerial starters. It's just not very good for Kung Lao. And his poking game is not really improved that much by this 24 frame low. Like, yeah, it is good, and it is a good thing to use in your strings, but not really up to your pokes. 24 frames is really easy to interrupt after down 1s. And you have to be pretty far away for it to be something that you would want to use after like a long down 4 or something. So really, he's just kind of like a much worse version of Motaro in terms of defense. He like has wake ups and has a teleport, but they both just don't really work very well at all. So I think he's either going to be really low B or high C. Okay, and so Khameleon, as you may expect, is complicated because it depends on which disguise you are in. But simply enough, if you're in katana mode, being able to go for the fan lift after any armor attack is going to be very, very strong. You can keep yourself very safe very easily. Especially now that Havoc has this aerial dive kick move that can start combos. Like, there's nothing much the opponent can do about this. You just jump out of the way, and there's not much punishing that. So Katana, very, very easy to keep safe, and she recharges reasonably fast. If she is in Melina mode, if we're in Melina mode, we no longer have like an ambush to keep ourselves safe, but this is the one mode that gets a invincible wake up. So now, as Melina, you get the ball roll as an invincible wake up. Can't keep yourself safe, but if you do want a Kameo wake up, as you can see there, it will go through meaty attacks, just like all Kameo reversals. but then weirdly timed things will get interrupted. The cool thing about this though is that even if it is used as a wake-up, it does keep its properties as a launcher, which is pretty strong, and a lot of Kameo wake-ups lose the properties of launching, just like Sonya and Kung Lao. So this is still a launcher, it's an overhead, so even though it is, has the weaknesses of Kameo wake-ups being able to be stuffed quite easily, it's reasonably fast, it is an overhead and a launcher, so I'm gonna say this is actually probably one of the best Kameo reversals. It can not be done on block though, however. It's not invincible. And as Jade, you don't really have anything in terms of defense. Your special move is no longer an invincible wake-up, you can't keep your armor safe, but she does let you kind of have some defense against zoning thanks to the glow. So yeah, Khameleon is pretty interesting in terms of safety. Either she's gonna have really easy time keeping her armor mix safe thanks to the, katana lift. She's gonna have an interesting wake-up with the overhead, very, very quick, slightly invincible ball roll, or she's going to be good against zoning. And keep in mind, especially with things like the ball roll that is 18 frames, she's also going to be really good against pokers now. So now, the opponent needs to be frame perfect in order to punish your down ones, because if they are 1 frame off, or they're slightly too far away that the poke hits 1 frame later, then they're going to get hit by the ball roll. Which is pretty scary because, once again, it still leads to full combos, whether it's used as a reversal. Not that this is a reversal, but yeah. A really quick overhead that can interrupt the opponent's pokes is very, very strong. So overall, she gives you really, really good defense a third of the time. Slightly good defense the other third, and then just defense against zoning the other third. So over half the time she's going to have reasonable defense. So I think she's going to go in the high A tier. Because she has some wake-ups, she has some very, very easy safety that can also combo off of some characters' armor attacks, like with Katana, the Katana fan lift, it can combo off of Rain's wake-up geysers, which is really, really strong. So it just depends on the timing of what disguise she's in, but overall she has pretty good defense, and sometimes she has ridiculous defense. Alright, now Kano is a pretty good Kameo when it comes to defense. He gives you basically everything you could want. Obviously he has 2 ambush moves, which have 2 slightly different ways of covering safetiness, but he also has a Kameo wake up. So if I have him going for this Kameo wake up, as you can see, 15, oh, actually it's not 15 frames, it's maybe it is 15 frames, sometimes the counter is a little bit weird there. I think it's reasonably slow, but as you can see, the frames are actually very good. So it has a lot of pushback, multiple hits, so it does a bunch of chip damage. Look at the chip damage I take as the Kano on the right here, just for blocking the wake up. It's a decent amount of chip damage for a wake up that is 0 on block, lots of pushbacks, put you straight back in neutral, and it has the same invincibility as other Kameo wake ups. So if I go for something that's very meaty, as you can see, it'll go through the opponent, but if I do something less meaty, I'll be able to blast through both of them. So it is still a risk. And no, it cannot be done on block, only as a wake-up. Now, as for the safety from armors, thanks to his ambushes, he's pretty interesting, and it will depend on what character you use, of course. So unlike Stryker, who stands really quite behind you when he does his moves, he just stands almost on top of the opponent, so it is relatively easy to hit him and the opponent when you're getting your punishes, which means that it is pretty easy, if you are fighting specifically Havoc, to go through this. Because you can just do something that's slightly long range and then you hit the 2 of them. But if you're against someone like Rain or Omni-Man or someone that has a armored move that pushes you forwards and Kano gets left a little bit further behind, like if I'm over here, I'm not going to be able to hit him as easily when I'm going for my punish, and that means that, well, I'm going to get interrupted by the knives. Which means that for a lot of characters, or just at a lot of spacings, you can have a completely safe wake up, and the only thing the opponent can do is maybe go for a down 4 so that they go under the knives. And that will, give you a tiny bit of a safer punish, which is still not that much. So pretty cool that he's able to keep himself safe. And this will work even better with characters with multi-hitting wake-ups, because the multiple hits will means that you're jailed for longer, and then the first knife will jail, and it's just better, better, better. The Kano ball, on the other hand, is a little bit slower of an ambush. So it's a little bit more interesting. To use this effectively to keep your wake up safe, you do really need a multi-hitting wake up attack. Because as you can see here with Havoc, it's just nowhere near fast enough. The opponent can easily get a punish no matter what. But if you have a multi-hitting wake up like Rain, this will be really easy to use because you can just go for your armor attack and go for the ball, and then the 2 hits of the geyser will hit, and then Kano will hit, and you're completely safe. And what's kind of good about using the Kano ball instead, if you're a character that, you know, has a multi-hitting wake up, is that you have this kind of modularness of the Kano ball that you can hold it down. Now, when you go for your armor attack, you can either see that the opponent blocked, and then release the Kano ball instantly to keep it plus, or if they get hit by your armor attack, you can be like, oh, let me just hold down Kano. Now I can use him as a bit of an Oki tool to give myself better, you know, better options on the opponent's wake up. I can go for his safe jump in because now the cannonball is going to hit first, and then yeah, you get just slightly better offense and you get to just hold it down and very, very easy to react if the opponent gets hit or not. So Kano gives you quite a lot of things. He can keep you safe pretty easily with the Kano knives, and depending on the character, it can make them completely safe or just half safe depending on how the opponent punishes you. He has a pretty decent Kameo reversal because it has a lot of pushback and does a lot of chip damage. And the Kano ball is an also pretty good way of keeping yourself safe as long as you have a multi-hitting wake-up move like Rain does. And also just because he has these projectiles that travel full screen, it makes defensive playstyles also quite strong because you can just walk backwards, be jumping backwards, summon Kano, and these things are coming in from full screen. So he's pretty good in all aspects of defense. And this may just be Havoc, but for some reason, going for the Kano eye lasers, for some reason when he pushes you down, kind of changes your hitbox weirdly, where the poke seems to whiff, where from very close, Havoc's poke pretty easily reaches from, but from that weird animation, maybe you can interrupt some pokes and be good at the poking game as well. There may be potential there. So, having ambush attacks that can keep things either completely safe or half safe, depending on the opponent's punish, can occasionally lead to combos based on very specific characters. He has multiple ways of keeping himself safe with the 2 different ambushes, so it's not too consistent or predictable for the opponent. I think makes him very strong, but not ridiculous. And I think he'll go slightly above Khameleon just because he can use all those safety options consistently and not having to be in a specific disguise to do so. Okay, Jax, not providing too much in terms of defense. You know, his ground pound is very, very slow, and although it's an ambush that hits the opponent, it's not going to be interrupting too many punishes. Unless you have some armor attack that puts you on completely the other side of the screen and they somehow don't hit Jax, it's not going to be interrupting very many armor attacks. So we're not really going to be counting that. So the only option he really has after that is his energy wave, which is actually pretty decent. Of course, it has the same weaknesses as all Kameo wake-ups. Can be easily stuffed, very, very easily, but its frame data is pretty good. -8 and a lot of pushback, that's completely safe. But it also can't be done on block, so pretty limited in terms of his defensive options, but they do exist and the frame data is okay, so pretty simple. So he really isn't doing much except having a Kameo reversal that is kind of safe if you wake up with it, but you can't do it on block, and he doesn't really have any, it's too slow at all to use in a poking game. Sareena's mid is 20 frames, I believe, whereas Jax's is 25, so I think he's going to go in high C. He has options, and it does work if you use it as a wake-up, but it has all the weaknesses of a Kameo wake-up, but the only thing that's good about it is that it's kind of safe. But other than that, he's really just doing nothing. Okay, Janet's not doing much to keep your armor safe. She's not really doing anything except for having a Kameo reversal, which on wake up is, you know, decently fast, but very, very punishable. Not much pushback and -26. This is actually one of the few that has different frames on block reversal versus wake up reversal. So on block it is actually -6. It becomes completely safe if you use it against the opponent's block strings. So maybe that is potentially a good thing. Use it a little bit more often in block strings than you would other Kameo reversals. Once again, if there's any gaps in the opponent's block strings, then this is something that you can use pretty consistently there. But once again, be very careful, because it will get beaten up by almost any type of stagger. So only if they're cancelling into special moves or cancelling into finishing the string, this is useful. And if they do just block, then you are actually safe. So that's kind of slightly good. And yeah, the wake up is not great, but it's there, I suppose. So Janet, I think we have to definitely put above Jax because she does have it on block as well. She can keep herself safe from the block version, so I think maybe she goes a little bit above Sonya. But yeah, really much of a muchness when it comes to this area. Okay, so Goro is definitely a Kameo that has an ambush, and it's kind of an interesting one. It is really fast, so it definitely is good in terms of defense. Any like armor attack in the game will be able to be kept safe by this. It's very fast, very strong. Even these single hitting armor attacks like Havoc's will easily be able to be. It's very fast, and even like single hitting kind of bad armor attacks like Havoc's and Noob Cybots will be able to easily be kept safe by this. Because it's just quick, it'll jail, keeps you a little bit plus, possibly plus, or at least just safe, and it's really, really good. It also has a unique ability to continue combos for certain characters. It's a bit weird though, because it doesn't have the best kind of like hit up. Like it kind of pushes the opponent upwards in a way that can be really hard for some characters to convert off of, like Rain converting off of his armored geyser with Goro's like up punch is really quite hard, or at least to get anything like meaningful amount of damage is really hard. But then he also does have the unique ability to combo off of armored attacks that basically no other Kameo can. Even like the likes of Janet Cage and Mavado can't combo off of this because the opponent is just launched like straight down. Goro can actually combo off of this. And yeah, making him one of the few characters that can combo off of certain wake-up attacks, which is really, really good to know, and is a big strength if you're playing someone like Havoc who normally can't combo off of it. Then you get this like easy, I can just basically be Tanya where I throw out my armor attack and either I get a full combo from it or I get to keep it safe. And because he also has this weird ability to like cancel into other moves, he can cancel into like this overhead, which if the opponent stays ducking, you can kind of use as a mix-up off of your wake-ups to kind of grab the opponent if they're expecting just to be like, oh, he's just gonna, you know, keep himself safe, do this. But then if you actually go for like that, you can go for some unique mix-ups, or you can kind of go for this multi-hitting punch walk, which then if they're not ducking will connect. And then you leave yourself quite plus, which is, you know, a much of a muchness, but maybe being able to toss the opponent with an overhead is a good way of mixing them up and finishing out a round in certain circumstances. He does also have a Kameo wake up. It doesn't work on block. It's only for wake up, as you can see. And it works pretty similarly, but it is really quite slow, so this, even more so than other Kameo wake-ups, is going to be really, really easy to stuff. So you're really not often going to be wanting to do this. And just like all Kameos, all ambushes in the game, being able to like do something into a special move and keep the special move safe is automatically going to make your poke game better. So I don't know if I've said this for all the other ambushes, but yeah, anything that can cancel after your special moves as an ambush and keep any special move safe that's reasonably fast is going to make your poke game better. So that means I can do any kind of down one into this like quick low. I'm going to be able to catch the opponent trying to counter poke against me and keep it safe. So that just goes for all ambushes. And yeah, being able to consistently keep armor attacks safe, like no matter what, without a gap, like there's no guessing as to whether the opponent has the right kind of punish to interrupt it. It is just guaranteed safety or plus frames, and also can lead to combos from the wake up. You know, of course, depending on the character you're using, and then also potentially having the ability to go for like mix-ups with the overhead or whatever. That's just the icing on top. Overall, just being able to consistently be really, really safe and get combos automatically puts you in the S tier, and I think slightly above Motaro, because getting combos off of your armor attack, like without having to think about it, is very, very easy and very, very strong. Okay, now back to slightly weaker defense. Frost is not really giving you much. She doesn't have an ambush to keep you safe, and all she has is this Ice Crash. She has a Kameo wake up, Once again, nothing too amazing about it other than the fact that it has a decent amount of pushback, so maybe you won't get punished. But it also isn't able to be used as a block reversal, it's only for wake-ups. So yeah, really quite limited defense options for Frost. Just a Kameo reversal is really not too meaningful. Like, the only plus side is that if they do block, it has a decent amount of pushback that maybe you won't get punished. But really, really limited. So yeah, she's really not doing much for you, doesn't really have any gimmicks. Yeah, she's low C. Okay, and then Ferra is an interesting one because she's not doing much overall, but then when she is doing stuff, she's doing a lot, if that makes any sense. So she only works for very specific characters, but when she does work for them, it's really damn scary. Havoc is not a great example, but all she's doing is jumping on you and doing this. And for the characters it works for, that is really good. So if you have an armor attack that leaves you in the air, which there is not a small amount of. Off the top of my head, you've got Kitana, you've got Tanya, you've got Homelander, you've got a few others, I imagine. But anyone that is in the air from their armor attack means that, like, they go for their armor attack, she jumps on you, and the armor attack for all of these characters becomes a full combo or plus on block with the overhead. And it does cost you a full Kameo gauge, but that is really scary. She's basically just she's just an automatic, like, armor attack converter for these specific characters, because now whenever they go for armor, it's basically guaranteed to have this on the end of it. Because why would they ever not do this? It goes into a full combo, it's plus on block, it's an overhead. It does cost a full Kameo gauge potentially, but even if they have half a Kameo gauge, they can still do it. So unlike the likes of Mavado or Darrius, who need a full Kameo gauge in order to keep yourself safe with the armor, Ferra can do it even with half, even though it costs the full, which is confusing, but that's just how she works. So, yeah, very extremely strong for those specific characters, but then for the rest of the cast, she's not doing anything. She doesn't even have, like, a Kameo wake-up or anything, so then she becomes extremely weak for them. So for the characters that are left in the air, I think she would be like an easy top mid S tier. But I think in fairness, because she's not usable by all the cast, and when she's not usable, she's pretty damn bad in terms of defense, I think she's going to be low S or really high A. I might do high A because she really is not doing anything for characters like Rain or Havoc. But when she is being used, she's really top tier and cheesy. Darrius is another interesting one. If we start off with the, like, more boring option, yes, he does have a Kameo wake-up. It's really kind of bad, though. It's on the slower end, like 30 frames. It is having a decent amount of pushback, but it's minus 15, so there is still a good chance that a bunch of characters may be able to punish this. But, like, yeah, it's okay. It's a Kameo wake-up, nothing great about those, to be honest. But he does have this spinning kicks, and they have been it has been buffed in a few ways in recent patches. So not only can the kick upwards or the punch uppercuts Jesus, be now cancelled into like a jump cancel, it gives you really good damage and good damage for a lot of characters. What is most important to me is that now if you do the full string, it gives you half of your Kameo gauge back, so it only technically costs half a Kameo gauge, and it starts recharging really quickly. So this makes it one of the cheapest Kameo safety ambushes that costs a whole gauge, because it comes back very fast, and you get it back if it works out. But if the opponent blocks it, you don't get all that gauge back, and it does cost a whole gauge, just like Mavado, so it's like a 50-50 there. Also, the thing about it is that it is quite slow, similar to Mavado, but unlike Mavado, who places this thing on the floor that stays there for a while, Darrius will just miss, and then you've wasted your entire Kameo gauge for basically nothing. Or not basically, literally nothing. And that's just a very sad thing to swallow, because when he whiffs, you also can't do any of the follow-ups, so there's no mix, there's no anything, it's just very bad if that happens. So he's kind of similar to Ferra, where for the characters that he works for, he's really, really strong, but for the rest, he's not really doing too much. Like, Havoc, for example, he's not comboing off of his armor attack, so it makes it kind of not that great. But for Rain, who has a double-hitting geyser armor that launches the opponent into the air, Darrius combos off of that super easily, and then you get like a full combo. So like, for the 4th gen characters, you're either getting like a decent little combo, and you get to build a lot of Kameo gauge back on hit, and on block it's really good as well, because if I do this, oops, and if you have a multi-hitting one, then this all jails into itself. You get like a lot of chip damage, and a lot of the time the opponent is going to get hit by this stuff, because the uppercut portion is actually armored. So after the opponent blocks your armor attack, then the Kameo attack, then they're going to try and mash, and then you get to armor through them with the uppercut, and then you'll get half of your Kameo gauge back for them trying to take their turn back. And it happens pretty common, almost all of the time. You'll end up getting that half back, or you'll just get a bunch of chip damage. So either way, very good. So Darrius, he does give you a Kameo wake up. He does give you the potential safety of that kick, and it can be beneficial that it can go into combos, or it can give you half of the Kameo gauge back, but in some similar ways to Ferra, it is quite character dependent. Just some characters are not going to be able to benefit from it as much as others, and it's a little bit unfortunate. So I think because of that, he's not going to be an automatic top tier. Maybe he is a top low S or top A, because I'm trying to think of the number of characters that will be able to work well with his kick. A lot of characters do have single hitting armor attacks, like even Omni-Man, it reaches far forwards, but you're going to be able to hit Omni-Man and Darrius after a wake up or anything most of the time. So I'm going to put him in A, because just like Ferra, he works really well, but only with the characters he works well with. Okay, so Cyrax is another example of a full Kameo gauge ambush safety guy. And also a questionably useful Kameo wake up. It's 40 frames, so it's not really going to be useful ever, except for maybe very specific circumstances where maybe the opponent does something that launches you full screen, and they go for like a meaty projectile or something that hits you at the specific frames. You can invulnerably go through and hit them, but yeah, nah. It's not really a reversal. You're not using it as a reversal like ever. But the main thing is that we've got the horizontal helicopter. Now, yes, it does cost the whole Kameo gauge once again, but you know, a bunch of the other cameos on this list have cost the whole Kameo gauge, so that we can't automatically write him off. Thing is though, although helicopter was really good in early days because people used it for so many different reasons, when we're talking about strictly armored wake-ups or armored reversals and keeping them safe, if you have a bad armored reversal, Cyrax actually can't cover you too well because they are highs and he does come out somewhat slow. So if you have a very quick, short, and stubby armor attack like Havoc's and Noob Cybots, Cyrax isn't going to help you too much. You need a little bit of pushback, or you need a little bit of extra hits or like hits block stun in order for this to work, because it's very easy for me even as Havoc to interrupt this. So we need to like imagine that you're a little bit further away, have a little bit more hit stun, then yes, Cyrax is going to do a pretty good job of keeping armor attacks safe. That said though, they are still highs, so unless it does completely jail from a multi-hitting armor attack, you're always going to be able to get like a down 4 or a down 2 potentially. Actually not down 2 because that raises your hitbox. So like you can get a down 4 or something. It's just not guaranteed like some other Kameo safety tools. The thing is though that it can, for some characters, have an interesting, like you can react to whether the armor attack hits, especially if it's multi-hitting or not, and you just like press the Kameo gauge and you either release it quickly and then he just does the regular version, from which you can get, you know, a conversion that only costs you half a Kameo gauge, or if the UDC, oh, it was blocked, you can go into the, just hold the button down and you get the version that's better on block and also does lead to combos still. So yeah, there's potential, but as you saw, if you do have a bad Kameo, if you do have a bad character armor, it's not really going to help you because it does have the same weaknesses as like Kano knives, where it can definitely be interrupted either by a crouching attack or just completely interrupted because it's not actually that fast. But the fact that it will be able to keep most characters' armor attacks somewhat safe and also be able to combo off of a lot of characters' wake-up attacks, it does certainly get some points for being good. So I think he certainly goes in the A tier, maybe a tiny bit below or close to Kano and Khameleon. I think maybe at least above Khameleon because he can do it consistently. It is just expensive. So if you are using him for combos and zoning and stuff, you may not be able to use the safety at all. Actually, I take that back. I think he's definitely going to go below. It's just, yeah, that fan lift is so amazing that even having that occasionally makes him better than having to spend a whole cameo gauge for potential safety. Okay, Tremor's another interesting one, finally, because he does have options, but none of the options are super amazing or consistent. So no matter what mode he's in, he does always have an armored wake-up. In Aftershock, that's going to be the ground pound. In Metallic, it's going to be the forwards and upwards lava. Whoops. Lava punches. And in Crystalline, it's going to be the crystal punch. So all pretty standard moves, just the strikes that don't really lead to much are going to be what his armored wake up is. But they all have practically the same properties. If I knock him down and he goes for it, as you can see, it's like reasonably punishable, and has the same invincibility as most cameo wake-ups. Very, very easy to stuff, and they also can't be used as block reversals. Except for specifically Crystalline, which the Crystal Punch, which is a mid, that also has pretty decent pushback if you use it on wake up. So minus 20 from that far away is practically safe. Maybe Crystalline is actually one of the best defensive modes for him because you can either get the Crystalline armor, which is slightly ridiculous, or you have good wake ups and potentially good block reversals. But just, you know, keep in mind it's the same as all cameo things. Very easy to interrupt with staggers or poorly timed Oki. Both of those are easily going to interrupt both of these with no problem. And that's basically it for Tremor. He does have the ability to, like, you know, he can change forms and kind of hard to demonstrate, but he can change forms and then go for block. Okay, you can stop doing all that, please. He can change forms and then make a bunch of his stuff into ambushes, but the fact that he has to change form in order to do that means that there are very few armor attacks in the game that will have enough hits or blocks done that can, like, jail into this. It's just not going to happen. It costs you a whole cameo gauge for a very, very low chance of the opponent actually getting hit by this or blocking this. It's just very slow, very, very likely for you to be interrupted. So I don't really recommend doing it, but say if you have pre-patched Tanya with the multi-leg kicks, then maybe it's useful, but other than that, I don't think there are any characters in the game that have an armor attack that hits enough times for this to be something that you're going to be going for consistently. Because it just, yeah, is not going to work very often, but I suppose it's an option. And yeah, other than that, he's not giving too much in terms of the poke game. Like, I suppose you can do stuff like this, but once again, anything above 20 frames is really unlikely to catch an opponent, like, being really slow to punish your pokes or take their turn back. So, not too much for Tremor, unfortunately. So he technically has options, like he has cameo wake-ups, he has some ambushes, but they are very slow that they're not really going to jail. So I think he also is going into a low B. Like, he's just not doing, I guess I can put him above Sonya because he's doing similar, but Sonya does have block reversal consistently where he only has it once. I'll put him slightly above Sonya for the potential to maybe use the ambushes, but it's really not going to be that useful for him. Then yeah, I guess that is all of our cameos now at this point. looking through the list, it's actually a bit more evenly spread than I thought it would be. I thought it may be like a bunch of people in super top tier and then a bunch of ones that are super crap. But there's a pretty decent spread of like offense to defense. You can see the cameos at the top here they either have like very, very good ambush moves that either hit mid or stun long for combos like these two, or this guy as well sometimes. This guy has an ambush that brings you like really, really far away. So all of these characters can consistently keep you safe and have other strengths like being able to combo off of things, have really good anti-poke game or anti-zoning game, consistently keep anything safe, like no matter what, and it's not really mind games. These cameos down here are potentially going to be able to keep you safe. They're potentially going to be really strong depending on the character that you use, like these two. If you're in the air, she's really good. If you have multiple hits, then Darrius becomes really good. And then in the lower end of A, you have these cameos that do have defensive options, but whether they work or not may be a little bit of a, depending on your opponent and how well they know how to beat your gimmicks. But they still have good ways of keeping you safe. Like, if you have Khameleon in Katana mode, you can easily keep yourself safe. If you have a multi-hitting wake-up attack, the knives are going to be able to keep you safe, like, really consistently. These two do depend, but they definitely can keep you safe. And all of them have, even if they're not using ambushes, they do have cameo wake-ups that are pretty good in some way, particularly Scorpion. He has a cameo wake up that is like gets you through anything no matter what, with all the hits of armor on the get over here. Then as we get a little bit lower, like these are cameos that aren't really doing anything for you defensively. Like maybe the higher ones, they do have their cameo reversals that you can use in block strings or on wake up. Then as you get lower, they don't have them from block strings and they have very bad frame data, or they're just not really doing anything at all unless you've copied some moves and are relying on a quick wake-up attack stolen from the opponent. So yeah, those are the defense properties of every cameo in the game. I hope you found it interesting and it gives you an idea of what kind of cameos you use, and maybe you're now realizing that the cameos you like to use are having very good defense, or perhaps you like to use cameos down here that are just straight up really good at giving you high damage or easy conversions or some like gimmicky chaos with the ground pounds, because these cameos down here are by no means bad. Like China Cage, I would definitely not say is a bad cameo, probably the best in the game, and Sareena and Jackson Sonya are definitely not bad cameos. They just are not great for defense. But then as you get up here, Sub-Zero is definitely not the best cameo in the game, but he has the most consistent defense in the game. And yeah, it's interesting to think about different strengths of different cameos, and defense is probably not the coolest thing, but it is definitely important. So, hope you found this video useful or interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.